One young woman walked through the rain carrying a tray of empty plates, wondering if life would ever offer her anything more than survival. She had no family, no money, and no reason to believe tomorrow would be different from today. But sometimes fate arrives in the most unexpected way. And when she made one brave choice, everything changed. Sit back, relax, and let's dive into this story. On a quiet afternoon in the coastal town of Brighton, a young woman named Maya finished wiping down the last table at the small beachside restaurant where she worked. The place was called Ocean View, though the view was often blocked by fog and rain. Maya had worked there for 3 years, ever since she turned 18 and aged out of the orphanage. The owner, Mrs. Chen, was kind enough to give her a job and let her rent the tiny room above the kitchen. It was not much, but it was all Maya had. She lived alone, worked long hours, and saved every penny she could. Life was not easy, but she had learned long ago that complaining would not change anything, so she simply kept moving forward one day at a time. That afternoon, the restaurant was quiet. Only a few customers sat inside, and the rain outside had kept most people away. Maya looked out the window at the gray sky and sighed softly. Then she heard Mrs. Chen calling from the kitchen. "Maya, can you take out the trash before you leave?" "Yes, Mrs. Chen," Maya replied. She gathered the garbage bags and stepped outside through the back door. The rain had stopped, but the air was still cold and damp. Maya walked toward the large bins behind the restaurant and threw the bags inside. As she turned to go back, she heard a strange sound. It was faint, almost like a voice carried by the wind. She stopped and listened carefully. There it was again. Someone was calling for help. Maya's heart began to beat faster. She looked around, trying to locate the sound. Then she realized it was coming from the direction of the beach. Without thinking twice, she ran toward the water. The beach was empty and the waves were rough. Maya scanned the shoreline quickly. Then she saw him. A man was struggling in the water, his arms waving desperately above the surface. He was far from the shore and the current was pulling him further out. Maya did not hesitate. She kicked off her shoes and ran straight into the cold water. The waves crashed against her body, but she pushed forward. Her heart pounded in her chest. She was not a strong swimmer, but she could not just stand there and watch someone drown. The water was freezing. Every step felt heavier than the last, but Maya kept moving. When she finally reached the man, he was barely conscious. His eyes were half closed and his body was limp. Maya grabbed him under the arms and began pulling him back toward the shore. The current fought against her. Her muscles burned. Her lungs screamed for air, but she refused to let go. Slowly, step by step, she dragged him through the water. When they finally reached the shallow part, Maya collapsed onto the sand, gasping for breath. The man lay beside her, coughing violently. Water poured from his mouth as he struggled to breathe. Maya sat up quickly and turned him onto his side. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice shaking. The man coughed a few more times, then nodded weakly. "Thank you," he whispered. His voice was hoarse and barely audible. Maya looked at him carefully. He was young, probably in his late 20s. His clothes were expensive, even soaked and ruined. His face was pale, but there was something dignified about the way he carried himself, even in that condition. "What were you doing out there?" Maya asked. The man tried to sit up but winced in pain. "I was walking along the rocks," he said slowly. "I slipped and fell into the water. The current pulled me out before I could get back." Maya shook her head. "You should not have been walking there alone. The rocks are dangerous, especially after the rain." The man looked at her with tired eyes. "I know that now," he said quietly. Then he smiled faintly. "You saved my life." Maya felt her cheeks warm slightly. "I just did what anyone would do," she replied. The man shook his head. "No," he said. "Not everyone would have jumped into that water. You risked your life for a stranger." Maya did not know how to respond, so she simply looked away. A few moments later, 2 black cars suddenly appeared on the road near the beach. Several men in dark suits stepped out quickly and rushed toward them. One of them, a tall man with sharp eyes, knelt beside the young man. "Your Highness, are you hurt?" he asked with urgency. Maya's eyes widened. "Your Highness," she repeated quietly. The young man glanced at her, then back at the man in the suit. "I am fine," he said, thanks to her. The tall man looked at Maya for the first time. His expression softened slightly. "Thank you," he said. "You have done something extraordinary today." Maya was still trying to process what she had just heard. "Your Highness," she said slowly. "Are you a prince?" The young man smiled weakly. "Yes," he said. "My name is Alexander. I am the crown prince of Aldoria." Maya felt her breath catch in her throat. She had saved a prince. A real prince. The men in suits carefully helped Alexander to his feet. One of them draped a coat over his shoulders. Another brought a bottle of water. Alexander took a sip, then turned back to Maya. "What is your name?" he asked. "Maya," she replied quietly. "Maya," he repeated. Then he looked at her seriously. "I owe you my life." Maya shook her head. "You do not owe me anything," she said. Alexander studied her face for a moment. Then he spoke to the tall man beside him. "Make sure she gets home safely, and find out where she lives. I want to thank her properly." The tall man nodded. "Yes, Your Highness." Before Maya could say anything, Alexander was led toward one of the cars. He looked back at her one more time and gave a small nod. Then the car door closed and the vehicles drove away. Maya stood on the beach, soaking wet and shivering. Her mind was racing. Did that really just happen? She whispered to herself. That evening, Maya returned to her small room above the restaurant. She changed into dry clothes and sat on her bed, still unable to believe what had occurred. She had saved someone's life. And that someone was a prince. The next morning, Maya went to work as usual. She did not tell anyone about what had happened. Who would believe her anyway? But as she was serving breakfast to a customer, Mrs. Chen called her over. Maya, there are some people here to see you. Maya looked up in surprise. See me? Mrs. Chen nodded toward the entrance. Two men in suits stood near the door. Maya recognized one of them from the beach. Her heart began to race. She walked over slowly. Can I help you? She asked. The tall man smiled politely. Miss Maya, we are here on behalf of His Highness Prince Alexander. He would like to meet with you. Maya blinked. Meet with me? Yes, the man replied. He wishes to thank you personally. Maya hesitated. I do not need any thanks, she said. I was just helping someone in trouble. The man's expression remained calm. His Highness insists. A car is waiting outside. Maya glanced back at Mrs. Chen, who was watching with wide eyes. Mrs. Chen nodded quickly. Go, Maya. I will manage here. Maya took a deep breath. All right, she said quietly. The car ride was silent. Maya sat in the back seat, her hands folded nervously in her lap. The men did not speak much, and she did not know what to say. After about 30 minutes, the car turned into a long driveway. At the end of it stood a massive estate. The building was grand and beautiful, with tall windows and elegant architecture. Maya's mouth opened slightly in awe. The car stopped in front of the main entrance. One of the men opened the door for her. This way, please, he said. Maya stepped out and followed him inside. The interior was even more stunning. Marble floors, high ceilings, and paintings that looked like they belonged in a museum. She felt completely out of place. They walked through several hallways before stopping in front of a large wooden door. The man knocked gently. Come in, a voice said from inside. The door opened, and Maya stepped into a spacious office. Prince Alexander stood near the window. He was dressed in a clean suit now, and he looked much healthier than he had the day before. When he saw Maya, he smiled warmly. Maya, he said, thank you for coming. Maya stood awkwardly near the door. Your Highness, she said quietly. Alexander walked toward her. Please just call me Alexander, he said. Maya shook her head slightly. I do not think that would be appropriate. Alexander laughed softly. You saved my life. I think we are beyond formalities. Maya did not know how to respond. Alexander gestured toward a chair. Please sit down. Maya sat carefully, her hands still folded in her lap. Alexander sat across from her. I wanted to thank you properly, he said. What you did yesterday was incredibly brave. Maya looked down. I just did what felt right. Alexander leaned forward slightly. Most people would have hesitated, but you did not. You risked everything to help someone you did not even know. Maya met his eyes. I could not just stand there and watch someone drown. Alexander smiled. That says a lot about who you are. There was a brief silence. Then Alexander spoke again. I want to do something for you. Maya quickly shook her head. That is not necessary. Alexander raised a hand gently. Please let me finish. Maya stayed quiet. I know you work at the restaurant, Alexander said. And I know you live alone. Maya felt her chest tight. How did he know that? Alexander continued. I want to offer you a position here at the estate. A better job, better pay, and a place to live. Maya's eyes widened. I cannot accept that, she said quickly. Why not? Alexander asked. Because I did not save you for a reward, Maya replied. I did it because it was the right thing to do. Alexander looked at her with admiration. That is exactly why I want to help you, he said. You deserve better than struggling every day just to survive. Maya felt tears prick her eyes, but she blinked them away. I appreciate the offer, she said, but I cannot accept charity. Alexander shook his head. This is not charity, he said. This is gratitude. There was another silence. Finally, Maya spoke. Can I think about it? Alexander smiled, of course. Take all the time you need. Over the next few weeks, something unexpected began to happen. Alexander kept finding reasons to visit the restaurant where Maya worked. Sometimes he came alone, dressed casually to avoid attention. Other times he sent someone to bring her small gifts, flowers, books, or food. Maya was confused at first. She did not understand why a prince would pay so much attention to someone like her. But slowly she began to realize something. He was not just being kind. He genuinely enjoyed her company. One evening, Alexander came to the restaurant just before closing time. Maya was wiping down tables when she saw him walk in. She smiled despite herself. You are becoming a regular customer, she said. Alexander grinned. The food here is excellent. Maya laughed softly. You do not come here for the food. Alexander's smile faded slightly, replaced by something more serious. You are right, he said. I come here to see you. Maya's heart skipped a beat. She did not know what to say. Alexander stepped closer. Maya, I know our lives are very different, he said, but I cannot stop thinking about you. Maya looked down. You are a prince, she said quietly, and I am just a waitress. Alexander shook his head. You are not just anything, he said. You are brave, kind, and genuine. Those are qualities I rarely find in my world. Maya felt her emotions rising, but your world and my world do not fit together. Alexander reached out and gently took her hand. Then maybe we can create a new world, he said, together. Maya looked up at him. His eyes were sincere, filled with something she had never seen before, hope. Can I ask you something, she said. Anything, Alexander replied. Why me, Maya asked. You could have anyone. Why would you choose someone like me? Alexander smiled softly. Because you did not choose me for what I have, he said. You chose to save me when I had nothing to offer. That is the kind of person I want in my life. Tears filled Maya's eyes. She had spent her whole life feeling invisible, like she did not matter. But in that moment someone saw her, really saw her. I do not know if I can do this, she whispered. Alexander squeezed her hand gently. You do not have to decide right now, he said. Just give me a chance to show you that this can work. Maya looked into his eyes for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. All right, she said. I will give it a chance. Months that followed were like a dream. Alexander courted Maya properly, taking her to quiet places where they could talk without being noticed. He introduced her to his closest friends, who welcomed her warmly. He showed her parts of his world, but he also stepped into hers, helping her serve tables at the restaurant and laughing with Mrs. Chen in the kitchen. Slowly, Maya began to believe that maybe, just maybe, this could be real. One evening, Alexander took her to the beach where they had first met. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. They walked along the shore in silence, their hands intertwined. Alexander stopped and turned to face her. Maya, he said gently, I have something to ask you. Maya looked at him curiously. Alexander reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Her breath caught in her throat. From the moment you pulled me from that water, my life changed, he said. You showed me what true courage looks like. You showed me what it means to care for someone without expecting anything in return. He opened the box, revealing a beautiful ring. I do not want to imagine my life without you, he continued. Will you marry me? Tears streamed down Maya's face. She could not speak. She simply nodded. Yes, she finally whispered. Yes, I will marry you. Alexander slid the ring onto her finger and pulled her into a warm embrace. The waves crashed gently behind them, the same waves that had brought them together. 6 months later, their wedding took place. It was a grand ceremony attended by dignitaries, royalty, and common people alike. But for Maya, the most important moment was when she looked into Alexander's eyes and said her vows. She promised to stand by him, to support him, and to love him for who he was, not for his title. And Alexander promised the same. As they walked down the aisle together as husband and wife, Maya thought about how far she had come. From an orphaned girl with nothing to a woman who had found everything she never knew she needed. True love, real companionship, and a place where she finally belonged. My wonderful viewers, sometimes the bravest thing we can do is help someone without expecting anything in return. What do you think about this story? Do you believe Maya made the right choice? Share your thoughts in the comments section. I would really love to read from you. A more interesting story will be coming in a few days. So make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss it. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video and share it with your friends. Thank you so much for watching.